Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Streamline Capital. Excited for today's show. I've got, one of my friends and partners, Brian Armstrong, with us today. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Happy to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, it's Brian's.
Yeah, right.
For some
Must
reason,
be
I
an
just
easy
got
one.
flashbacks of what is it? Spies Like Us, Doctor.
Yeah, right.
But all right. So let's do this. Let's talk about you for a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate, first of all, and then how you ended up in multifamily.
Sure. Yeah. So graduated college in 2000
Okay.
with a degree in civil engineering, focused on structural engineering, kind of followed the traditional path, went and got a job,
Yep.
started earning the W-2 income. And that was trucking along fine. And then, came across everyone's favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yep.
sort of life-changing for many people.
And when you said
Uh,
everyone's favorite book, I knew exactly what you were going to say next.
yep.
So
So
yeah, I guess you hit the nail on the head.
heard the story before, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It got the wheels turning. Didn't really know what to do next, but
Hmm.
kind of started hunting around at different ideas. My dad and I went to a real estate conference. I don't remember when that was, a long time ago, kind of
Hmm.
exploring multifamily as an option. It never quite resonated and took off back at that time. Fast forward a little bit after that conference, and my wife and I were looking to buy a house.
Hmm.
So living in San Francisco Bay Area, stuff's
Yep.
very expensive. We ended up finding a place that was a fixer
Hmm.
on a short sale because, this was after the 2008 financial crisis when real estate prices took a hit.
Hmm.
A lot of things coming off a short sale in the 2011, 2012 time frame. So
Yep.
picked up one of those after a very lengthy process of purchasing.
I picked up a short sale in San Diego, same time
Yeah.
frame, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah, it was like an 8 month process.
Oh yeah. 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 We
Wow.
put the offer in like November or early
Hmm.
December and
Yep.
then didn't even close on it until like May of the following year or something like that. So it
Yeah.
was,
Similar for us, just different months. Yeah, we were renting a house at a time, and I told the landlord, it's like, you know what, we're gonna figure out when we close. I'm gonna give you about a 1 week notice on us moving out. And yeah, fortunately, they were good with that. But
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. So since it was a short sale and the
Mhm.
folks didn't really care about it a ton anymore,
Mhm.
and it was a little old, ended up inheriting a fixer that hadn't really necessarily wanted that to be the strategy, but it is what turned out.
Mhm.
My wife enjoys rehabs and renovations and such. So we ended up
Nice.
turning that one into a live-in fix-up,
Mhm.
which was an interesting challenge. Never easy to live in them while you're fixing them.
No, no.
It turned out to be a lot farther away from life than we
Mhm.
expected it. So it
Mhm.
actually turned into a live-in flip with no expectation of doing that when we moved into it.
Mhm.
So traded out of that one after we fixed it up, turned a little bit of a profit, thought, hey, that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Maybe we can do that again. Fast forward to the next one, and this time bought a place in San Francisco itself, and
Mhm.
it was close to work and all that kind of business. And another live-in flip on that one. Actually did a condo conversion of a two-unit
Okay.
building into two separate condos. So that was a learning process there.
Mhm.
So just kind of dabbled in the real estate in a different aspect in that regard,
Mhm.
and then sold that one, another live-in flip we sold, and then moved to a community a little bit closer to my wife's parents as we were having kids at the time. So,
Mhm.
kind of did some progressions through the live-in flips and then kind of realized when the kids came around that holy smokes, these live-in flips are a lot harder. Not
Yeah.
only is it construction dust and all sorts of stuff everywhere, or you had to move out and take the kids with you, legitimate challenges with that. So then it was like, look, we can't keep doing this forever. This isn't a sustainable idea. So
Yeah.
let's do something different. Poked around for a minute at doing long distance flipping, and that just didn't make sense. It was just too
Gotcha.
busy, too much demand on the time, didn't have the bandwidth with the family. So came back full circle
Mhm.
to multifamily. It just made sense. You can partner with people who
Mhm.
are, elsewhere in the country. Everybody's got their aspect that they like to do. You can find people where you get complementary likes and
Yep.
complementary skills. So it just made so much sense. So
Yeah.
that's how I got back into it, and that's where I am now.
Now, the whole time, I assume you had a full-time job. You said you got your degree in
Yep.
engineering, you're a structural
Yep.
engineer. So full-time job the whole time. So this is all in addition to the full-time job, right?
You got that right. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So You did the first one unintentionally, you said, but what was
Yeah.
your reasoning for continuing down that path and doing one more flip like that?
Yeah. So ultimately, a couple of things, I suppose. One, we like the idea of being able to put some money into something and add equity to it greater than the amount that you put into it.
Hmm.
So, if you're buying something that's already fixed up retail, you're basically buying it at the top of the market for that
Yeah.
market at that time, right? Your only equity really comes from the whole market appreciating. If you're fixing up something, you can put some money into it and
Hmm.
you can boost the value more than just the market appreciation. So that had an appeal to me because of, I think, the wheels turning and being interested in real estate to start with and that equity. The other thing was, my wife kind of likes things the way she likes
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
And with it is maybe as silly as it sounds, but when you do your own rehabs, you can kind of make it the way you want it versus
Yeah.
inheriting something the way someone else made it the way they wanted it. So
Yeah.
kind of a dual benefit, I suppose.
There's also a paradox there because, if you're doing the live-in flips, supposedly as soon as you're done getting it like you like it, you're going to sell the house and move out.
True. I wouldn't say that they've all been
Hmm.
intentional flips. That's
Okay.
part of the trick, right? So you move into it and you think, oh, this will work. This
Yeah.
place is good. And then like life circumstances change and you're like, okay, well, I guess we're moving out of this one into the next. You
All
learn a
right.
little bit each time. You learn a little bit more about what you like and what you don't like each
Hmm.
time. Kind of take those lessons into the next one. Some of them have been purely intentional live-in flips. They've all
Yeah.
been sort of accidental live-in and then we're moving out. So
Yeah. The short sale that we bought in San Diego, we did kind of exactly what I mentioned, that little paradox, where you fix it up. But when we were about to move out, because I was getting transferred across the country, we put new flooring into it, and we put new
mhm,
flooring into it because it would rent better. But, my wife and I were both scratching our heads thinking we should have done this when we moved in.
right.
So we could enjoy the new floors. But yeah, in that particular unit, we had a single tenant for 8 years. A woman and her
Nice.
daughter took immaculate care. And when we took the keys back to sell that property, the floors still looked like new. So
There you
anyway,
go.
yeah, that little paradox right there. Fix it up.
Yeah.
You don't get to enjoy it, but the next person does. Anyway, let's talk about, what's drawn you to multifamily. You've done a couple live-in flips, done pretty well with that. Why multifamily?
It's really the benefit of just working with a team. I
Hmm.
love the idea of working with a team of people who are also equally interested in real estate and
Yep,
specifically multifamily. And then I get to work in markets that are not necessarily local to where I live.
that's huge.
The Bay Area rents are high, but cost of ownership is high. And so
Hmm.
unless you can really find some sweet deals, which are not very common, and there are a lot of people chasing them,
Yeah.
it's hard to get a great return in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
It makes sense for me to be chasing down deals in other markets that I
Hmm.
like and that make a ton of sense and are growing and
Hmm.
have a lot of upside to them, but I'm not local to those places because I can't travel to get to these places all the time
Yeah.
if I were to do a single family situation, right?
Hmm.
You're not really teaming up with people as much in a single family flipping or single family rental environment. So
Hmm.
the multifamily thing makes a ton of sense, I think. And then also, I love the fact that the value of multifamily is based on the income
Hmm.
that you can generate, and if you can find ways to generate more income out of the property, you can boost the value, not to infinity,
Yeah.
but you have more control over it than you do on a single family where that would be valued against the comparable properties in the neighborhood. So you hit a ceiling at some point more so
Hmm.
with single family than you do with multifamily. So
Yeah.
I like the added control. It really opens up a lot of possibilities if you are working with the right people and everybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of that, I'm working with a lender right now to refinance a property. That was the call immediately before this. They're looking at the income lines. They're
Yep.
not looking at the property, they're looking at the income lines. And if I can
Right.
figure out how to move that income up, guess what? Property values go up. Yeah, that's something I think we both agree on and we both really, really love about it. Now, you say you partner with other people in different markets, and you mentioned specifically you're not flying out there. So I'm going to assume that your role is not the, lead sponsor manager type, but what role do you typically see yourself in the apartment groups that or the general partnerships that you're in?
Yeah, good question. So I'm currently not lead sponsor,
Hmm.
lead partner. I think that, is an aspiration at some point, but not there yet. My role is primarily to help do a small portion of the operations of the deal,
Hmm.
bring in some capital from
Hmm.
interested investors in my network, and just help out in a contributing way, however I can from a remote location.
Yeah.
Which there's always, so many aspects to putting something like this together and operating it that there's opportunities certainly for folks who are local, and there's plenty of opportunities for folks who are not right there in the immediate vicinity. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
works.
Now, you mentioned other markets outside of San Francisco. And before I ask you the question, I just reminded myself, I got a friend that was in the same coaching program I was in many years ago. And he was also from the Bay Area. I think more closer to San Jose, but that's still called Bay Area, right?
Yeah, yeah. San Jose
Yeah,
is
yeah.
definitely Bay
San Jose
Area.
still Bay Area. Okay. But he was talking with his mentor and he's like, "Yeah, I want to be the lead operator. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do the other." And I remember his mentor told him, he's like, "Look, where you live in a money state. You don't live in
Hmm.
a deal state.
Yeah,
If you can figure out how to raise money, and he did, he's raised kind of multiple 8 millions worth of dollars now, but I think you're well located for that, for that role because
yeah.
there's a lot of people who bought real estate, a single family home to live in, and they're sitting on a gold mine now. But
The California retirement plan. Buy a house,
yeah,
and sell it when you're ready to retire and
yeah.
move somewhere cheaper.
Oh my goodness. I've got a buddy, he's a Navy veteran. I knew him after he got out of the Navy, but he calls me about once a year, and it's almost the exact same conversation every year. It's, Brian, this is how much my house is worth. Should I sell it and move to Utah or Idaho where, I can buy a house cash and still have $1 million free and clear? That's kind of the story in California. But
Yeah.
all right. So the question I was going to ask, you mentioned other markets. What do you look for in other markets when choosing where to invest?
The two keys that are related, I would say, are
Mhm.
population growth and job growth. Those are the two things that fuel demand for rentals in any market. And if you could find a market where there is population growth that has been proven over time and is projected to sustain,
Yeah.
and the job growth that goes with it, that brings more people to the area, that's a
Mhm.
market worth considering.
Yeah.
If you can also match that up with a market that has a lack of supply in rental units available, then you've got a winner
Yeah.
because that increased demand is going to outpace the supply in that case. And then you'll have a sustained demand for rentals for, a long time to come.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You'll have higher than average, year over year rent increases, higher than
Right.
average year over year price increases.
Yep.
And I know you know this, speaking more to the listeners right now, over time, properties appreciate at roughly the rate of inflation. I mean, go figure. Same with rents. Nationwide, it's just
Yep.
slightly higher than the rate of inflation. So when you look at these areas that have, more demand, less supply, you're going to see higher than the average growth as opposed to some other markets. But so how about this one? And I might have ulterior motives for asking this question, but what markets do you like right now?
No, good question. I thought you might
Yeah.
ask. I have a few,
Hmm.
and one of my key markets that I'm focused on, ironically, is Salt Lake City.
Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
Yeah. So I think Salt Lake has a lot of growth trajectory still to go. Been growing for a long time. It's got a lot still coming, really. The Silicon Slopes is still going strong. A lot of companies opening up offices in the area. Olympics are coming back, which I know that's not a reason to buy
It's going to be
a
awesome
rental
though.
property, but it's
Yeah.
something. It shows there's some growth happening, and
Yep.
there's a lot of land in Utah, but
Hmm.
Salt Lake is a tiny piece of the whole state. And
Yeah.
so it's a little bit constrained area. You got the
Hmm.
mountains on the east, you got the lake on the west,
Yeah.
so it's not like you got acres and acres of land to just
Hmm.
develop into forever. So it's a constraint. Anytime
Yeah.
a market has a constraint is a
Hmm.
market worth considering.
Yeah.
So Salt
Yep.
Lake's good. I'm also a big fan of couple of the big cities in North Carolina. I think there's a lot of growth out there, a lot of tech
Hmm.
companies, biotech moving out to
Yep.
North Carolina. Let's see. Still a fan of pockets in Dallas. I think you got to work with the right people in Dallas.
Hmm.
It's a tough market, a lot of institutional money there,
It's a
but
big market too. I
it's a
mean,
big market. Yeah,
it's like the opposite of what you said about Salt Lake, where you're geographically
true.
constrained. You know,
Yeah,
Dallas can just keep on sprawling for miles, but it's like 8 million. I think
yeah.
Dallas has like three
I think
times as many people in the entire state of Utah. So
it's like the
yeah,
second or third biggest MSA now. It
yeah,
passed Chicago, I think it was
yeah.
recently.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, the population keeps going, even though the sprawl continues. So you got to be careful where you
Hmm.
pick, because if you pick the new edge, then in 5 more years, you're not really the new edge anymore. You may lose it out to the people that are the new edge and the newer stuff. So
Yeah,
it's still a
yeah.
growing market, no
The
doubt.
new
So
new edge. Yeah.
right, yeah,
We're the old new edge. They're the new edge. Yeah.
yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, we were looking at a couple of developments in, kind of like on the fringes. And yeah, those are no longer the fringes, so
hmm
there's still deals to be had. And I think you made a
yeah,
really good point. You have to watch what areas you're in. I think that's true for everything.
yeah,
North Carolina,
definitely.
I like North Carolina. I'm
Well, you used to
still
do a lot in South Carolina, didn't you?
I used to do a lot in South Carolina. We made a lot of offers on properties in North Carolina, but never hit pay dirt. I am part of a general partnership on one deal in Charlotte, and so that's good, and it's been performing extremely well. So
Yeah,
yeah, I do love the Carolinas, but ever since I moved away from the East Coast, that it just wasn't feasible anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I'm
Yeah,
an operator, and that's what I
right,
love to do. And so that's the
right.
difference. So
To do the operations from across the country is a level of challenge that probably isn't worth it if you got a market closer that you like.
yeah, and I mean, I'm born and raised in Salt Lake City, and I'm a stone's throw away from it right now, and it makes a lot of sense for me to invest in my backyard. So
Absolutely.
talk about some of the challenges you face. I mean, you've been in a couple of deals right now, and I guess specifically raising capital. What were some of the challenges you had, raising capital when you first started out, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so the challenges is really that some people probably have heard that idea
Mhm.
that, you find a good deal and the money will come. I
Yeah,
don't think that's true at all. I,
yeah.
maybe for some people, but for the most part, that's not really the case. You really have to kind of plant the
Hmm.
seeds with folks who are in your network, friends,
Hmm.
family, colleagues, maybe if you're comfortable asking people at work, and really plant that seed that, you're working on something and, there's a lot of upside and you've done a lot of research and
Hmm.
a little bit sort of convince some of those people who are friends and family that, yeah, maybe I've been a structural engineer for the last 20 something years, but,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean I can't do this at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
I do know what I'm talking about over here also, kind of breaking that stigma a little bit. Really, it's just kind of growing the network is one of the challenging things. It's
Yeah.
just getting the word out, connecting with people who are interested, connecting with people who believe in the idea of real estate and not just relying on a 401k.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest challenge. I think once people buy into the idea that
Hmm.
it is possible,
Yeah.
it is possible for people to do it passively and let
Hmm.
the operations team run the show and that it works, then I think people are usually pretty interested
Hmm.
by that time. But getting folks there who, especially folks who've never heard about the idea of investing
Yeah.
passively in apartments can be a very big hurdle
Mhm.
because people are like, what is this? This doesn't sound like it makes any sense.
Yeah.
You're like, no, it makes total sense, really.
Yeah. And a lot of people want the product, but they don't know how to get it. I remember, me and a couple of my buddies, early 20s college students, sitting on the steps of one of the apartments we lived in and just like, man, we got to figure out how to buy one of these because
Right.
I bet you those guys are just rolling in cash, but
Yeah.
so I think at some point, a lot of people realize they want it, and it is a different way of doing things, syndications, that's not something people, usually hear about in day-to-day life. Crime syndicates maybe, but
True.
yeah.
Not quite the
Once,
same thing of what we do.
yeah.
Yeah, I had
Good.
a friend or an acquaintance or
Mhm.
colleague, I guess I'd call him, who kind of said one of those things once. We drove past an apartment building and he just mentioned out of the blue, man, I got a slug of money just sitting in an account waiting to buy one of these things someday. And
Mhm.
it filed it in the back of my brain. And then all of a sudden, there was an opportunity I had available,
Yeah.
reached out to him and he's like, no, I'm not ready at this time. And I'm
Yeah.
like, did you really have that money ready to go, or you just thought you
We
wanted
just,
to
yeah, we,
maybe, but you weren't
yeah,
really ready?
maybe that slug of money went somewhere else, and
Maybe, maybe.
yeah.
It takes a good mix of people who are interested and
Mhm.
have the money and have the right timing to mix those two together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, timing with investors is really important. We were talking with somebody who is interested in investing, about 250,000 into one of our properties. And, he's decided to, do a charitable mission for a church, which is going to take him out. He's like, well, with this coming up, I really need, so timing is important because a lot of people they
Oh
they
yeah.
may be sitting on that cash, but things change, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's one thing that I've realized, over and over again is, you can have an investor that, wants the product and understands it, but if your timing's a little bit off, you may never connect. But
Yep.
is what it is what it
Yep.
is. So, well, awesome. A couple questions to finish this up here. I never really asked, motivations behind this. So before I hit my last three questions, going back to what we said earlier, you're still working a full-time job, you're raising capital and helping with operations on multifamily on the side. What's your goal with that? Why are you doing that?
Good question. Because everybody kind of has to have their why as well, why bother kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's really kind of a lesson that came from my dad's experience. He has a PhD
Hmm.
in biochemistry of all things. After getting his degree, he got out, got a job, started working in the field. Slowly over the course of his career, transitioned to more of a marketing role with technical background. Ultimately made it to a vice president level, and
Hmm.
then got laid off in the 2008 financial crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And at that point, he was in his, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s.
Hmm.
Despite all those qualifications, could not get another job. I think it was just straight up ageism. Of course, no one would admit it, but
Hmm.
other people got the jobs he was applying for who were younger than he was. So,
Yeah.
put two and two together. It
It,
seems
it
pretty
does
obvious.
happen. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does happen. So,
it happens a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was that lesson of like, holy smokes, if I'm relying on one income, or my wife and I are relying on one income each,
Hmm.
there's no safety in that. And for me, that's where this comes from. It's that, look, I have a great job, still work as a
Hmm.
structural engineer, work for a great firm, great people there. Even still, what if the clients pull the plug tomorrow on half of our work?
Yeah.
Then what? What if the company gets acquired and
Hmm.
my role isn't needed anymore? There's no backup plan in that. And so for me, it's all about building additional sources of income
Hmm.
to supplement the W-2 income.
Yeah.
And maybe someday it replaces, who knows? That's not necessarily the goal at this point. It's
Hmm.
really to supplement, and then, maybe at some point my wife can quit her job. I know we have the commonality of both of our daughters do gymnastics. My daughter's gymnastics schedule sort of takes her all over the place. And so
Hmm.
having my wife not have to work would be a wonderful advantage for the family. Maybe we can get to a point where at some point she either cuts back to limited part-time or none at all. So there's a couple different motivations in there, I suppose. But
Yeah.
all of those
Yeah.
things become possible with multifamily as an additional source to the regular W-2 job.
Yeah. We recently put my wife into the workforce. So, 25 years of marriage, she may have worked, 1 to 2 years outside the home. And granted, we got 5 kids. There's a lot of work inside the home, but
No doubt on that.
um, yeah, I mean, she's working as a school teacher because that's what she wants to do, but that's the key. That's what she wants to
Yeah,
do.
that's what she wants to do. That's cool.
All right, now we're going to start on our end series of questions here. So, first one is what's next for you?
Yeah, so for me, it's focus on growth. I had heard the thing last year about finding a theme word of the year for your goals, and so this year I chose the word build as
Yeah,
my theme. So it's all about building for me in many aspects of life, but for multifamily specifically, it's build up the ability to raise capital, build up the network of
yeah,
operating partners to work with, build up the network of passive investors who want to invest. So
yeah.
just build it bigger.
I think this is a great year to build as well. I mean, a lot of people who were in this industry 2, 3, 4 years ago are doing other things now, and so it's a time where properties are going to be trading hands, wealth is going to be transferring, and we're in that part of the cycle where, man, I'm just really excited for what's coming up. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Build. I love that
agreed.
one. All
Yeah.
right. How about this one? If you had to give advice to somebody who's just starting out, what would that advice be?
So I think on that, it would be you got to be willing to put yourself out there with pretty much everybody
Yep.
and be willing to accept people not being interested or telling you no and just moving on to the next and not holding a grudge by any stretch,
Yeah.
but just listen, this isn't for everybody, and that's okay.
Mm. Yeah.
You got to talk to a lot of people to find the
Yeah.
people who are interested. And just if somebody's not, just,
Yeah.
cool. Thanks for listening and move
Yeah.
on. Cross them off your list
We,
of
we, we can
people who
still
are
be
interested in real
friends.
estate. We can
Exactly.
still be friends. We can still hang
Yeah.
out. No
You're still,
problem at all.
you're still getting a Christmas card this year. Yeah. So
Exactly. Yep.
yeah, we actually haven't sent Christmas cards out in several years. So that's a lie right there. Nobody's getting Christmas cards. But all right, Brian, last question for you. And that's how can listeners learn more about you?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is a great way to stay in touch
Hmm.
with me. I'm on LinkedIn a lot.
Yep.
My LinkedIn profile is Brian Armstrong SE for
Okay.
structural engineer. I am technically licensed, so I throw those letters back there.
Got it.
Um,
Got it.
and then my website is progresscapitalgroup.com.
Awesome. And
So
we'll put
either
links
way,
to both of those in the show notes for anybody. So if you want to reach out to Brian, LinkedIn and progresscapitalgroup.com and let him know you heard him here. So, all right. Well, hey, thanks a lot for coming on this show. Very much appreciate your time today.
thanks so much, Brian. Appreciate it. It was fun.